Update. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to live with brother-in-law anymore? Original post. My husband, 32 male, and I have been married for 2 years. His dad and stepmom are going through an ugly divorce, so his half-brother, 17 male, has moved in with us to live for a year till he starts college. My husband loves his brother, treat him like a little kid and is overprotective of him. But I find brother-in-law's behavior obnoxious, and we are having too many arguments over this. He's been with us for only a month and a half, and I can't stand it, and I really don't think I can put up with it for a year. It started off with him making messes and throwing away leftovers. Since I do most of the cooking and cleaning, it was increasing my workload. My husband's list of chores have not increased by his presence, so he was dismissive of my complaints. Since husband wasn't saying anything, I tried telling him to pick up after himself. Brother-in-law retaliated by spanking my butt. Anytime I tell him to do something, he hits my butt hard and laughs. Husband told him to knock it off, but he keeps doing it, and husband treats it as if he's just playing around, no big deal. Not only is it very disrespectful, but it's really painful. After that, he started randomly picking me up and carrying me around. I am a little over 5 feet and 112 pounds, and he's a tall, stocky guy. I hate it, and husband just thinks he's goofing around and trying to be friends with me. I work from home, and the other day when it was just him and me in the house, he picked me up and ran with me to my bedroom and threw me on the bed. It really scared me, but he just laughed at me and left. And still husband thinks I am being dramatic by being scared by this. I feel like his behavior is escalating, but my husband tells me to act like the adult and not blow up over a kid's playfulness. I am anxious every day, and I am seriously thinking of moving out, though it'll be difficult to afford it. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband that I don't feel safe in our home? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Not a-hole. It is completely inappropriate that a 17-year-old man is spanking his sister-in-law's butt and throwing you on the bed, and totally unacceptable that your husband isn't standing up for you and finds this behavior okay. Like I would threaten to leave over this. I told him I am considering moving out, and he just called me selfish. His brother has begun sexually assaulting you. Go ahead and be selfish. This behavior is escalating, and he is trying to figure out what he can get away with. It's very worrisome. Not a-hole. Put your foot down. No, you are still nearly newlyweds, and your marriage is important. Have another sterner talk to your husband about how it's impacting you. Ultimately, it's up to you. But if my husband dismissed my feelings and concerns for someone else who isn't his child, it would raise a red flag for me. 17 years old is not a kid in regards to behavior. This teen is pushing you and laughing that your husband is on his side more than yours. It comes across as juvenile dominance behavior. This 17-year-old is likely looking for control and power, given his life is in upheaval, and has stumbled upon the easiest way by making someone smaller and comfortable. It starts as bullying. It escalates to abusive behaviors. In this case, sexual harassment of his sister-in-law. OP, you need to leave. Go stay with your parents/siblings/friends for a while. In all likelihood, your brother-in-law will escalate this behavior because he's enjoying your escalating discomfort in line with, if I'm uncomfortable and unhappy, she should be too. This likely comes from his own pain and anger at his own lack of control over his life. But your brother-in-law needs therapy, and you're not his punching bag, or worse, his pet/toy, which is how you're being treated. Your husband is blind to this behavior, and frankly, sounds like the type to blame you if your brother-in-law escalated further and violates you. This is where this type of juvenile dominance behavior leads, when combined with sexual harassment. Your husband is not seeing that his baby brother is neither a baby nor acting like a brother to either you or your husband, and is overtly disrespecting both your marriage and human autonomy. Leave OP, and possibly reconsider this relationship without sincere apologies and couples therapy. Your husband has failed you. Now for the first update. Thank you so much for your comments and validating me. My husband had me confused and believing that I was overreacting. I am so relieved to hear from so many people that this is as dangerous and bad as I feel. I've packed a bag in my car and some important belongings and documents. I am 29 female for those who ask. I forgot to put that in my post. I called and talked to mother-in-law early in the morning. She's always been very nice to me, and at my wedding she told me she thinks of me as her daughter. My mom passed away when I was young, and I don't have any siblings, so that had moved me very much. I was nervous about talking to her because I didn't want to ruin that relationship, but she was so shocked when she heard the details. She said she'd talked to my husband and father-in-law, and this was an acceptable situation, and told me to come stay with her till it got resolved. Brother-in-law is out with his friends till tomorrow for 4th of July, so it gives me some time to have one more detailed discussion with my husband. I am also going to show him this Reddit post, and hopefully his mom's talk in these comments will be a wake-up call. Second update. I am very appreciative of everyone who commented on my last post and gave me encouragement. I won't be able to respond to all, but I appreciate it. I wasn't able to resolve this issue with my husband, and I have moved out. I am trying to come to terms with the fact that this is the end of my marriage. My mother-in-law was on my side and talked to my husband about the situation, but he got more annoyed with me because he saw this as me creating more drama between mother-in-law and father-in-law and causing old grievances to rise. I showed him the Reddit post I made and the comments, and he accused me of presenting things in a lurid manner to get people on my side. He didn't even read all the discussions, just got enraged and closed the tab. Mother-in-law also talked to father-in-law who came down on brother-in-law about his behavior. Father-in-law told brother-in-law to leave our house and move in with him. Brother-in-law refused, saying he wants to stay with my husband. My husband came up with a solution that brother-in-law was to stay in his room and I should stay in my bedroom, lock the door, and not get out till he got home from work. This angered me even more that I had packed the bag and my documents thinking of leaving anyway. Father-in-law talked to me and said that he doesn't like that we aren't getting along and brother-in-law will no longer stay with us. But the next day, brother-in-law came into the house with a group of his friends, and I simply grabbed my laptop and left. I am so grateful to the people who had suggested that I be packed and ready to go. So, I already had everything in my car and could leave with what I needed immediately. I'm staying with my mother-in-law now. She is flabbergasted by my husband, who's told her that he'll never ask a close family member to leave his house. It is clear that my husband doesn't even like me, much less care about me at all. He hasn't spoken to me since I left. I'm trying to figure out what I should do next. I obviously can't stay with mother-in-law for long, especially since I need to start the divorce process. I could move back in with my dad, but he lives in another state, and that'll make things hard. I don't have any savings, and I'm short on money. The majority of my paycheck goes into half of the mortgage and utilities in our house, and we have a combined joint account. I've been foolishly spending a lot on decorating the house instead of saving up, and I suppose all that is gone now. I need to figure out my money situation so I can support myself. Thanks for the update. I'm glad you didn't let the situation go on any longer, and that you had the courage to get out of the marriage when you realized you had a husband problem. You're young, and you have a new and better beginning ahead of you. I like your parents-in-law. How did they raise such crappy sons? Mother-in-law has been amazing, but she didn't raise brother-in-law. That's father-in-law's son from a second marriage. And father-in-law? Well, I think it's good that he told brother-in-law to leave. But he was dismissive of the issue itself, acting like it was just a bit of a spat between us. You should see a divorce attorney ASAP. They can help you straighten out the financials. You've got to get out of paying that mortgage, first of all, and be reimbursed for your share of all the money that's been put into it. She's flabbergasted by my husband, who's told her that he'll never ask a close family member to leave his house. Dude, that's your freaking wife. What a naive, childish stance. Good riddance. Talk to your dad, friends, family, and broader social support network about how to financially prepare yourself for the divorce. There's no principled reason your husband should get to keep living in your shared property while you pay for something else. Best to split up assets and get on with the separation process. Also, allow yourself the time to grieve and be patient. Healing takes time, but you'll be far better off years from now. Yeah, that quote got me too. I mean, isn't the wife a close family member? He effectively asked her to leave. OP, you might want to look into a counselor or a therapist as you deal with separating. I recently learned about homosocial behavior, where men only consider men people and women property. Of course he chooses his brother's side because his brother is important to him, but his wife is just a possession whose opinions and feelings are irrelevant. I watched a similar thing go down recently. I was friends with a married couple. They had a guy friend move in, and the guy was absolutely horrific to the wife, to the point she was having panic attacks because of how he was speaking to her, and sucked up to the husband, like thanking the husband when the wife cooked dinner, all while the husband chose the guy's side every time, and tried to convince the wife she was crazy. They divorced within a year, and he still acted like she was property after she left, trying to get people to convince her to return to him as though she had no free will. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not allowing my parents to sleep in the same bed? I think you know where this is going, but there's no definitive answer on who's in the wrong. Also, for simplicity's sake, I'll be saying parents, but it is my mother and stepfather. My mother and stepdad have been together since I was little. So, I'm a 25-year-old woman with 2 older siblings, both male. When we were growing up, we were never allowed girlfriends or boyfriends to spend the night, which I felt was fair enough. When my brothers got to about 16, however, their girlfriends were allowed to spend nights, but they had to sleep in the spare room. Again, fair. That makes sense to me. I was always somewhat of a tomboy, so as you can imagine, teen boys didn't show much interest in me romantically, so I didn't get my first boyfriend until I was already 18. My parents wouldn't allow him to spend the night at all, despite us both being over 18. I wouldn't have minded if my brothers had been held to that standard, but I felt as if they were favored over me. It isn't even because they disliked my boyfriend at the time either. Everyone seemed to love him. That relationship didn't last more than 6-ish months, so I dropped it after a while. I got with my now fiancé when I was 22, and we've been engaged for a year. We're getting married in only a few months. Still, just like every time before, my parents wouldn't allow him to spend the nights until a few months after we got engaged, after I brought it up to them. It wasn't a conflict, but they knew I was irritated and allowed him to start using the spare room. We moved in together not long after, so it didn't really matter. Now, I may be an a-hole. My mother asked about wedding planning, the first time she even contacted me since the move, and I told her I still had a lot to sort out, but I was getting through it. And she practically insisted on coming up to me and having a week of mother-daughter bonding time where she could help me with wedding planning. My fiancé isn't a very social person and is happy to be the moneybags behind my wedding decisions. He just likes to give little opinions, and I'm sure to include them when he does. My parents arrived, and we spent the first day going out to dinner. I'd like to point out that the two aren't married and are steadfast that they won't be getting married again. Both of them divorced already. My stepdad twice. So, as the night was slowing down, they asked to be shown to their room. I directed my mother to one guest room and my stepfather to another. We have a 3-bedroom with no kids yet, so we have the space. My mother said that there was plenty of room in one for them both, and instructed my stepdad to come in with her. I explained that just like she told me, it was my house, and I didn't want them sharing a bed in my house. I basically repeated word for word what she would tell me when I'd complain about my brothers getting better treatment than me when it came to their partner. I told her that actually, they were in the same position I was in, because neither of us were married. She tried saying it was different, because they had been together for almost 20 years. I told them that it didn't matter, because this is my house, and my decision is final. Just like how my mother would shut down any discussions about it back then. I was sure to mention how my brothers were allowed their partners and I wasn't, but she claimed I was making it up. They stayed the night and left for home the next day, which I preferred because I was happy wedding planning on my own, and I haven't heard from them since. My grandmother is called to tell me off for it though, so I'm wondering if I am in the wrong? Am I the a-hole? Added because a lot of people are confused. At my mother's house, we were not allowed to ever sleep in the same bed, ever. Only months after we got engaged did my mother allow him to sleep in a spare room. Also, I said I don't mind the rules they have. It's their home, but it was the double standard for me. I had to wait until 25 to have my fiancé stay at my house, when my brothers could have whoever they wanted from 16. We were engaged by the time they let him. I was no longer a child. And it's not like I've been holding on to resentment for years after it stopped, as some misguided people claim. It was just months ago that it ended. Also, my intention was never to make them sleep the whole week separately. It was initially a, now the power is in my hands. Do you see the error of your ways? If they did, we could have moved on and laughed about it. and they would have slept in the same bed. Because they didn't and doubled down and started getting aggressive with me, claiming I was making things up, I stuck to it. I know I'm being a-holy, but am I the a-hole in the situation I'm in? Now for the comments. Not a-hole. They aren't even engaged. They're just boyfriend-girlfriend. Maybe if they get married, you can revisit this issue. You're the a-hole, but with a huge twist here. I absolutely love it. I think you already know that you're an a-hole on this one, you sly doggy. I hope your marriage is an awesome one. This might be the best AITA I've read in the short time I've been here. This would be a good one for r/malicious compliance too. I don't think I'd call you an a-hole. After all, you're treating them in exactly the way they treated you, and what's good for the goose and all that. Bottom line is that, as you say, your house, your rules. And if you choose to make them abide by the same rules you had to, even if it's petty, that's your choice. This is another. Parents being stupid. I can do whatever I want. Parents on deathbed. Why don't my children want to visit me? OP is petty AF, and I'm here for it. Definitely not a-hole. Are you petty AF? Yes, in the best way possible. Are you the a-hole? Nope. As far as I'm concerned, you're only going based off of the lessons you were taught as a child, and the rules of your home should be respected as you were expected to when you stayed there. They should be proud that you're using the things they taught you, lol. Grandma's an a-hole though. Yes, the pettiness was glorious, and she deserves a medal. I too wish that I had a chance to tell my parents it's my house, my rules. Stick to your guns for every visit thereafter. Your mother is simply reaping the consequences of her own actions. And again, it's glorious that you waited so long to introduce them to her.